Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Thanks for tuning in to the Lawyer on Air podcast. I've got a special treat for you today. This episode is packed with ideas and inspiration from Celina Lee as she dons her coaching hat to help you rethink your 2024 and also challenge yourself for an even bigger 2025. Celina is a big list of things. She's a lawyer, an award-winning writer, the host of the Live Your Dream podcast, an advisory board member, and a globally recognized executive and career coach. She's also the founder of the Live Your Dream Club. If you've ever been feeling like you're in overdrive and you're not really sure where to go next, one really powerful way to help you move forward is to work with an executive coach. I remember back in 2016 when I was transitioning from my in-house legal role to the scary thought of running my own business. Hello, it's happened. I decided to hire an executive coach. Well, it truly transformed my life, and here's why. First, a great coach won't tell you what to do. They'll just guide you to uncover the answers that you already have inside you. Second, coaches will help you reframe your past experiences or negative stories so they don't hold you back from your future success. And third, coaching provides you with accountability and structure. It keeps you going focused onto your goals and pushes you to take actionable steps. So if you've never considered coaching before, I highly recommend checking out some of my great friends who are coaches like Sarah Furuya, Jennifer Shinkai, David Sweet, and Helen Iwata, to mention just a few. These are people that I personally know who can help you take you to your next step. Oh, and by the way, let's not forget, I also actually earned a coaching qualification in 2024. So if you're ever looking to work with me, you know where to find me. So I really hope you enjoy the episode, and thanks for being such a fan of the show. I can't wait to see you back here in 2025 as season 9 of the Lawyer on Air podcast continues. Until then, cheers, kampai, and bye for now. Hello, Celina, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. So, Celina, imagine we are grabbing a drink together. Where are we, and what's your order?
Okay, so we're at Chelsea Hotel in New York City, which is only 1 block away from where I am right now. And if it's during the day, I would get a nice cup of coffee, probably a latte. If it's in the evening time, I would love to get like a bubbly, maybe a Prosecco or another type of sparkling wine. And it's a special place because I've been in Chelsea for, pretty long time at this point. And this hotel has a lot of history, and a lot of artists and writers like hung out here, and they lived there, they collaborated, they worked on their creative work. So it's very inspiring to be at this historical place. So yeah, that is my place, and I would love to take you if you come visit New York City.
Sounds great. I love the vibe you've just explained. I can get this really great visual on what it looks like. Can't wait to go there. Thank you so much. Well, Celina, you're a lawyer, you're an award-winning writer, you're the host of your own podcast, Live Your Dream, you're an advisory board member. Wait, there's more. You're a founder of the Live Your Dream Club, and you're globally recognized as an executive and career coach. And so I'm very excited to talk with you today about your amazing portfolio career that you have built, how you work with people in Japan, and all kinds of things. So let's get started, shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
Well, what initially inspired you, first up though, to study engineering even before you pursued a career in law?
Right. So I went to MIT for my undergrad thinking that I would be some kind of a math and science STEM major. But, it's interesting because life has its own interesting plans and opens a lot of different opportunities for you. At MIT, the school encourages a lot of the undergrad students to do a research project with a professor. And one of the professor I worked on a research project with, he was my mentor, and a lot of his research involved the relationship between law making and technology. So he was really ahead of his time. And that was my first introduction to law. And that's eventually how I became interested in going to law school. At the time, I don't know how it is now, but it wasn't really a normal path for MIT students to go to law school. In fact, I was the only one. And everybody was like, why would you go to law school? It's like people looked at me as if I'm doing like something really, bizarre thing. But I think there's a lot more people who, initially pursued engineering and going to law school. So yeah, that is kind of like my journey. It was not planned, but it's been a really, really meaningful and interesting path for me.
But I love how you say that life has its own little interesting plans for you, right?
Yes.
We can try and do as much as we want to plan something, and then suddenly something comes along like this. And, despite people saying why, you went ahead and do it. That's amazing. So, how did your engineering background then influence your approach to the way that you've done, I think, mostly corporate law, right?
Yeah. So right after college, I actually started working as an investment banker. At the time, like the finance industry was really hot and everybody wanted a job there. And kind of a backstory, but during undergrad at MIT, I actually did a study abroad at Oxford for 1 semester, thinking that I'm just going to go to law school because that was like what I was planning for. But then my grandmother, who was in Korea at the time, was very sick and about to pass away. So I hurried back, and then I had to come up with a new plan because I thought I would be at Oxford and travel the summer. Now I was back in Korea. So I wanted to do something responsible, like, get an internship. So I just applied for a lot of the investment bank offices in Korea so I could be closer to my family. And then that led to a full-time offer, which really started my career in finance. And then because I had worked in investment banking when I went to law school, it was just easier to get a job in corporate law. So after law school, I went to UC Berkeley for law school, and then I moved to New York City to become a corporate lawyer. Mostly I was doing private equity work. So a lot of my clients were a lot of rich people. So that was an interesting chapter of my life too.
Yeah, how is it working with people who are quite rich? Are they demanding? Do they
Yeah.
expect a lot? What's it like?
Yeah, I mean, they were mostly all institutional clients, so they're all respectful. But at the end of the day, I think at the core, what was really lacking for me was the meaningful work part. And it was just for me. For me, I just didn't see how reviewing contracts every day to help rich people become richer was something that I, found to be meaningful. Like I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. And it wasn't the law, but it was a type of law that I was practicing. So I think if I had gone into a type of law where I was really helping people, maybe like women's rights law or human rights law, or helping to protect children or something like that, I think I would have really found it to be meaningful and probably would have never left. But I think because of my finance background, it was a pretty natural path into corporate law. And not to say, I learned a lot, and you have to work really hard. There's a lot of good lessons that I learned, during that time, which really helps me every day in the work that I do now. But that kind of experience taught me that something that seems to be good, at the time, which means, at the time I was really happy and grateful that I got a lot of offers from big law firms, which is pretty much what a lot of people want to do, right? Especially in New York City. It was like the city of my dreams. But then now, as I look back, if I didn't get a lot of those offers, maybe it would have pushed me into a different direction. And maybe that would have changed the trajectory of my career. So that's something I learned, what seems to be not so good in the moment may not be, maybe a really great thing. Maybe something that seems to be really great right now may not turn out to be such good things. So we actually don't know until actually many, many years later.
Yeah, we don't know, and we just have to go through what we're going through at that point before we actually learn the lesson. And you talked about
Yeah.
lessons learned right there. I'd love you to tell
Mhm.
me what those lessons were that you learned. And perhaps part of that was one of the pivotal moments that let you decide to go into more meaningful work, which you're doing now mostly, which is coaching.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because like my life looks very different from what I had envisioned when I was, going through law school and practicing law. I actually never even heard of the coaching industry. I didn't know about it until many, many years later. And I think I found myself at a place where when I was, practicing law for a few years, I was kind of thinking about the next step. And up until that point, I was so fixated on the short-term goals. So like when you're in high school, you do your best to get into the best college you can. And after that, you try to get the best job and then to go to law school and then to get a job at a law firm. So I was so focused on my next goal that I really didn't have a better or bigger perspective about who I wanted to become and what was important to me. I never really had the time to really reflect on those important questions about my life and career direction. And honestly, I think I was just following the societal definition of success, especially in the Asian American, households. And there's a lot of pressure in terms of good name schools and, good brand name firms that I really followed and all of that. And I've achieved the goals, but it's interesting, after achieving all the goals, I found myself really unfulfilled and stuck. And I was so confused. I was like, how is it that I did everything right and my life felt so wrong? And that I felt like I won the race, but I was in the wrong race. And that nobody really told me to think about what race I want to sign up for before I even begin. So that kind of started my whole journey in terms of searching for my path. And at the time, it was really hard because I felt like I was going through a very dark tunnel that was never going to end. Like I didn't know if there would ever be a light. And this is something I think maybe a lot of lawyers can relate to, which is, a lot of my clients are obviously lawyers, many of them with my similar background. Actually, I have some clients in Tokyo as well. And because of my bilingual, bicultural background, I'm also Korean American. So I help a lot of clients to navigate their journeys, through career and through life. Is that I think something that a lot of lawyers struggle with is that we have this kind of like this pedigree, the background that a lot of people think is good, right? But then if you struggle and you're in a good place externally, right? Other people think that, oh my God, what do you have to complain about? Like you work at this firm or you're making a lot of money or, for whatever looks good. But if you're kind of feeling lost yourself, you sometimes feel like, oh my God, I should be grateful. What is wrong with me? There's all these like internal conflicts that actually makes it really hard. And I think my experience of kind of navigating through that change is what helps me to have more empathy with people who are going through a similar struggle themselves. So I think that's why I'm able to relate to the experience and for them to be able to feel really supported. So yeah, so I kind of went through that whole journey myself. And then honestly, I feel so alone and feel so stuck. I didn't really know who to ask for help. Like if your teeth hurt, you go to a dentist, right? But if you feel stuck in a career and you don't really know what you want to do next, who do you talk to about that? I didn't know anyone. And then I felt like a lot of my friends were in a similar situation. So what I think really helped me was I decided that from that point on, I'm going to give myself permission to do the things that brings me joy or, that I think is meaningful or fun, even if it has nothing to do with my job or career at the time. I think one of the problems I had identified about what had gone wrong was that I was only doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do or should do, like study hard to get good grades or work hard to get a good job, right? But it was always like fulfilling my responsibility, but never really listening to my inner self, following my curiosities, really giving myself permission to do the things that I want to do just because I want to do them, And when you suppress your curiosity or desires for a long time, then sometimes you become a person, like it happened to myself, is that I became a person that doesn't even know what she wants. So when I decided that I'm going to just like do what I want to do, give myself permission to try different things, I had realized one of my childhood dreams was to write a book. I wanted to have one book with my name on it. And so I ended up publishing that in Korea. It was the stories of people who pursue their dreams. And then after that, I became a speaker. And then I started a community to help people pursue their dreams. And then eventually I had realized that even though my resume seems kind of like there's really not one coherent path, I did so many things that seem to be unrelated to each other. Of all the things I've done, the ones that brought me true joy all had common themes. And that was whenever I did anything related to people and stories, I was very, very happy. So that's when I decided that, wow, whatever, I do from now on, it's going to have to involve people and sharing their stories. And eventually I started a podcast and then I found my way into the world of coaching. Yeah. And that was 8 years ago. And, it's been such a meaningful journey. Now I have clients in many different countries, obviously many in the US, but a lot in Asia, also in Tokyo and Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore. So it's been very, very meaningful. I'm really, really grateful to be able to do the work that I believe is so fulfilling and meaningful.
That's just super, isn't it? Right? You've gone and trusted your gut, and that inner
Hmm.
self you mentioned as well, and you've taken a really amazing trajectory. But it's all been the same theme, as you said, people and storytelling, and that's why I love speaking with you today because we are fellow storytellers and love dealing with
Yes.
people. But I'm sure along the way there, perhaps you had some resistance from others, or those people kept coming and saying, why are you doing this? Or, it could be personal or external as well. But did you have that? And how did you challenge those naysayers? Because they creep up a lot. And also, you've got yourself thinking, is this the right thing? But if it feels right, you go ahead. But there's the
Hmm.
external, as you mentioned, quite a lot there, the pedigree of what we've done. Why would you throw
Yeah.
that away? Why are you doing this? So tell me how you encountered those resistances and how you overcame them, because this is a really key theme for a lot of people. I think if you listen to this podcast, is they get naysayers. What's your advice for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I certainly have encountered the resistance from people around me. And especially like in the Asian community, Asian American community, there's a lot of admiration for like the kind of schools you went to and then the all the titles that you've achieved. And I think a lot of people were like, why would you want to throw away all of your hard work and then not be a lawyer anymore? What is coaching? Why would you do that? What do you mean you're going to quit law? I virtually heard from everybody, right?
Mm.
And it was scary because I had a lot to lose. I was already established as a lawyer, whereas I was not established as a coach. But I think at the end of the day, I really kind of felt this voice inside of me. So I remember the first day of coaching school. So my journey into coaching was I actually worked with a coach myself, and it was very life-changing. And here was this person who was not a family member or a friend. So she could be very neutral and objective, right? And she had no other agenda than wanting me to be the best that I can be. And she asked really powerful questions to help me get to know myself and then to really overcome a lot of the, inner challenges that I had, like fear of rejections and failures. And then to be able to set goals that was really aligned with my values and take action to achieve them. And I was like kind of really envious of her job. I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. But I was like, oh, but I'm a lawyer. I could never quit. And then I have a sister who was like, didn't you write a whole book about pursuing dreams? Like, why don't you follow your own advice? I was like, oh, you have a good point.
Yeah, yay, sister.
Yeah, older sisters, sisters are very wise. So I'm very, very grateful for her support. And then I enrolled in the same coaching school that my coach did, still telling myself that I'm not really quitting law because my identity as a lawyer was so strong. Like all my friends were lawyers. How could I possibly leave? Who would I even be? But then the first day of school, I felt like I came home. It was like the weirdest feeling. Like I was in a room full of strangers because it's the first day of school, right? But I just felt like I could just be me and do this really well. I felt like I was wearing really comfortable clothes that fit me really well. And then I had a point of kind of a comparison. I was like, oh my God, like maybe I was like not really comfortable, in my other jobs. I realized that I could just be me, like I could be my authentic self. And so for a while, I was trying to do both. And then eventually it came down to a point where I had to choose. And when I am kind of have to think a lot, I tend to walk a lot. And I still remember to this day that I was like walking around a lot in New York City. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I walked into this cafe in Soho. And then, like, I think I heard a voice. It said, Celina, you have to quit and you have to give this a try. Otherwise, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. So I kind of like listened to that voice. And then from that point on, I decided that I'm going to introduce myself as a coach because I had to really see myself as a coach before other people would see me as one, right? And then that was like a step forward into the direction of my life that I wanted to go. Yeah. And then what I've learned is that you could be more than one thing. I could be a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I'm still a lawyer. I am still licensed to practice in New York City. So, yeah, I'm a lawyer. I'm a coach. I'm a podcast host. I'm a creator. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I'm an entrepreneur. I am all of that. And then I'm open to many more things in the future too, right? So when you let go of the notion that, you are defined by one job, it was incredibly liberating for me. And so that's what I learned. Another thing that I learned a lot about, when you kind of face resistance or criticism or worries from other people, I've actually learned that when people say you can't do something, it's actually missing something. What they're saying is, if I were you, I couldn't do that. But they just say you can't do that, right? Because it's actually their own insecurities, or they're just projecting their own insecurities onto you. We have to interpret in the way that is helpful for us. They actually don't know because the future hasn't happened yet, right? So what they're saying, if I were you, I couldn't do that. But they're not us, so they actually don't know what we're capable of. We don't even know what we're capable until we try, right? So a
Very
lot of
true.
times it's disguised as advice, but always not helpful. So you have to think about, what do you want? What do you care about? What would you regret if you don't give yourself permission to try those things? So that's what I try to, share with when I speak and to my clients as well.
That's beautiful. I mean, how many times have I heard that? Don't do it. Why are you thinking to do that? It's so risky. And I've always, in the moment thought, is that right? Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. But then you
Yeah,
think, exactly if you've said it, it's their own insecurities. And I often call it, it's their risk level, that their risk level
that's
is
right.
not at that point that they wouldn't give away or release
Hmm.
or quit to do something else because that's them. And I think they're coming from a place of a goodness and they really
Yeah,
want to help you, but it's really a reflection of themselves in their own mirror
yeah.
that's saying this. And I loved how you said that. And I also, I feel that voice inside. It was Steven Spielberg who once talked about this, and you can find him on YouTube saying this, and it's very impactful. Is it's a whisper, and it creeps up on you, and
Mhm.
it whispers in your ear. It
Yes.
stands on your shoulder, yeah, and it tells you
Yeah,
what to do as a whisper. It's
exactly.
not a big old neon sign over there. It's not a blast. It's you walking into a cafe in Soho and it hitting you as you've stepped over the carpet into the room and you hear all the coffee being made and it comes up in your
Yes.
throat and you decide to do something different. I think that's really, really beautiful. How do people find that word and that you can be a lawyer and all these other things that you do? What do you do in your coaching that helps people, lawyers sitting in Japan here who are going, that's great. I love what she's done, but I don't think I can do it. How can I be adding on the and to what I'm doing
Mhm.
already as a lawyer? What would you say is your one tip that people could do there?
Yeah, I think the unique challenge with the lawyers, with our training is that we are trained to be kind of risk averse. So, like, I've seen a challenge that's common amongst my lawyer clients are that we tend to issue spot our dreams. So, like, before we even like start anything, we think about the worst case scenario, like all the things that could go wrong, right? That is actually really not helpful. So thinking about the best case scenario, like what if you can make it happen, right? You have to choose thought that will actually serve you. And then even though like, being a lawyer is great and we worked really hard to achieve that title, there's so much more to life than just doing one thing, right? So if you're someone who's curious about something else, and like you said, I love, Steven Spielberg talked about that too, because I really think that curiosity is more important than passion. For most people, we don't have a burning passion that screams at you, but it's those whispers that I think is like a little like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And just give yourself permission to explore those curiosities and then take action on them. It could be a side project, it could be a hobby. And then when you give yourself permission to listen to those voices and actually really let it kind of unfold and reveal what it also all means for you. So for me, like I didn't start out, writing just because I thought I would be like a full-time writer. It was never the goal then and never the goal now. But then when I gave myself permission to write and share my stories and write the books, just because it was my childhood dream, that led to me, starting a community to help people pursue their dreams. And then I realized I really love, interviewing people about their journey and like achieving their dreams. And then eventually, like it complete changed the trajectory of my career. But it was never planned that way. So I would say start small, start like really whenever you have like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. What are some small ways that I can take action on it? And then to be open to the idea of like, you could be more than one thing, just because you're going to try something else, that doesn't mean you're letting go of your whole title as a lawyer. And even for people who actually left full-time practice of law, you're still a lawyer. All of that experience has shaped the person that you have become, right? You're bringing your whole life experience to the next chapter of your life. So when you think of it that way, instead of thinking, oh, wow, like, if I do something else, like I wasted all my life, whatever you believe will feel true to you. So I would
So
say,
true. Yeah. Start small. I think one of the best pieces of advice I got when I started out on my own business and the rest of the things that happen along the way is exactly that. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And that made me think, as you were talking, it's not only a marathon, it's also steeplechase, where you go over things, you run through water, you go straight for a little bit. There's all kinds of little barriers and things along the way. But I feel like a career doing different things as you have done, and perhaps the same here, is it's a marathon with a bit of a steeplechase thrown in there, right?
right, I love
Things come
it.
up. I love it, right? I just thought of that as you were speaking. But your coaching mantra focuses on clarity and confidence. And anyone listening to you now can hear you're confident. And I think it comes from a real belief in yourself. You faced lots of different things beforehand that you talked about earlier, and you worked
Mhm.
through those, I think, believing in yourself. But how do you help clients develop that kind of belief in themselves and get that clarity and confidence, which you are all about in your coaching?
I feel like I have a pretty unique lens into human mind at this point. I've been a coach for more than 8 years. I've also written a book about people's, journey to living their dreams. I also have a podcast myself. So every day I hear people's stories, right? Especially for my coaching sessions, people tell me every day how they really feel and what they really want, not how they, portray themselves on social media, right? So like, and I hear that every day, and then I see a distinct pattern that emerges time and time again. And what's really fascinating is that across like different industries and racial groups and geographies, we all want the same thing. So as a result of all the insights that I've gained, I've actually designed my coaching framework called LOVE, LOVE. It's an acronym. So L is learn about yourself. So it's by paying attention to your emotions and being curious about what it's telling you. You start to be more honest with yourself and about what you want, and you learn your values. And then O stands for overcome internal obstacles. So those are the fear of rejections and failures, and learn to how to manage your inner negative voice and actually give more power to your inner hero or inner cheerleader, as I would like to say. The third step is visualize your success. So like visualizing yourself like having achieved your dream. In sports psychology, they call it mental imagery training. So like, if you really imagine yourself having succeeded in whatever it is that you really want, chances of you actually achieving is significantly greater. So that's the third step. And then finally, E is explore your curiosities and take action. You do have to do stuff. Like you have to think about like, what is it? What is my whisper telling you about what I really want? And then start taking small actions. And then the more actions you take, the more you learn about yourself. And then the love frame, more, you repeat over and over again. And then the reason why I've actually designed it love is because I really believe at the core foundation of all success and happiness is a love and respect for ourselves, because how you talk to yourself, how you see yourself, and the relationship you build with yourself is the most important relationship of your life. Like that will inform everything that you do. So like if you can cultivate a relationship, that is based on love and respect and self-compassion, there's a lot of ups and downs in a career journey, but you'll be able to be resilient and you'll be able to go through it. So that's what I really teach to my clients. So even though like I call myself a career and executive coach, my clients say that my coaching is a lot more deeper than holistic than just, navigating career transition. But at the end of the day, what I really want is to equip people with the tool that they can use for the rest of their life to overcome any challenges, achieve any goals they want. And then I want people to not need me at some point. So that is my goal.
Ooh,
And yeah,
yes,
and
not need you. That's the thing. Right. And the whole point is getting a coach doesn't mean you've got something lacking. You're enhancing what you've got, but you're also finding out those little dark spots where the torch light hasn't hit yet. And I think that's what, for me, working with a coach exposed the things that we put away and try not to think about and try not to show people, as you said, on social media or wherever it may be, but find those things that are always draining you down like a heavy anchor and release them. And I love how you've said that. It's super magical and love. Yeah, I love how you said that about your framework. That's super. What is one thing though that people need to know about working with a coach that they may not be aware of? For example, a lawyer sitting here in Tokyo who's thinking, I love what Celina's saying, but how do I work with a coach? What goes on? I don't understand it. Is she going to take me out to the field, or how does it work? So can you coach me on what it's like
Yeah.
to be with a coach? What sort of things should we be aware of before we pick up the phone or send an email to make a booking to work with you?
Right. A common question that I get is like, oh, how is it different from like therapy or mentoring, right? So generally, people seek therapy because they suffer and they want to heal, but people seek coaching because they want to succeed. The goal is always in the future for coaching. I actually did consider like going to therapy school when I was kind of going through the transition myself, but at the end of the day, I'm a dreamer, so I really wanted to help people become the version that they wanted to be for the future, help them achieve their goals in the future. And of course, there's some revisiting the past that could help you to become the person you are, but that is not the main goal for coaching. So like if you're a person who wants to succeed and there's goals that you want to achieve, a coaching will help you get there faster there on your own. So similar to like, let's say if there's an athlete that is training for the Olympics, even though they're at the, world top number one, right? They all work with the coach, right? It's why, because it's really hard to see yourself in an objective way. Like you mentioned, there's some blind spots that we miss, right? So it's coach's the job to actually hold up a mirror for you and then to help you see yourself more objectively. So when I work with my clients, I have them fill out what's called an initial questionnaire and ask series of questions, including one of the most important questions that I ask is like, at the end of our coaching journey, if you've achieved everything that you could have envisioned together, and then you're able to say, wow, I'm really glad I worked with Celina. It was a really great investment of my time and resources. What needs to happen for you to be able to say that? And what is different for your career and life? So this is called establishing the coaching agenda. So I'm very, very clear about the outcome you want. And then so for every session, I'll be designing the session to help you go through that journey so you can, at the end of our time together, you can achieve that goal. So that is a way that I approach coaching. Different coaches have a different coaching philosophy. So it would actually be helpful. I actually, even for people who come to me, I recommend and encourage them to talk to other coaches because it's just like any other relationship. You have to like each other. There has to be like a chemistry because you'll be spending a lot of time together, right? In the US, it's actually really common for top executives or even like law firm partners to have a coach. So, if there's a goal and a dream that you want, and then you're kind of trying to navigate that journey, a coach could probably help you with that. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So what are some of the common struggles that you notice amongst lawyers who you are coaching? Obviously, they've got to take up the yes and go and start coaching, but you talked about success. How does a lawyer typically approach you, and where do you see them starting to soften a little bit as you get through the coaching? Perhaps there's struggles that you've found, and maybe someone listening to this is going, that's absolutely me. Celina identified what I'm struggling with, I think I might need a coach. I'm going to try. And maybe you or other people as well, right? There's plenty of other coaches, and I've got a coaching qualification too. But tell me what you see as common struggles.
One of the biggest struggle that I see is that people issue spot their dreams. So what helps you to become a great lawyer is not going to help you to build a great career.
What helps you to become a lawyer?
Yeah, what helps you to become a great
A
lawyer
great
is not going
lawyer.
to help you to build a great career.
Ooh, what does
Yeah.
that mean? Wow, that's really
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's what we
I
think happens,
That's
surely.
what we, yeah. And it's natural and normal to want to apply the same skill sets, right? Because we went through a lot of training to gain those skills, right? So issue spotting, is a skill that we learned in law school. And then that probably helped you to do well in law school, and then, probably made you a really good lawyer. But career exploration is not the one where there's a straight answer or rigid answer. You have to be open and flexible and curious and be willing to experiment and be open to, changing it up as you go. And I think this is why a lot of lawyers feel very uncomfortable with the notion that, like, oh, maybe I want to do something else. Even if there's an idea that excites them, they'll start to issue spot that idea and like think about the, all the things that could go wrong. That is not going to help you to take action. And if you don't take any action, you're never going to achieve your goals and dreams. And I see this a lot where a lot of lawyers kill their dreams in their head before it even like it becomes a thing, right? It's all happening in their head and they don't even know it's happening.
So good. I love it. So tell me about this exciting new community that you have created, the Live Your Dream Club. I want to hear all about it. Can people join from Tokyo? Is it open to men and women? Tell me about it. It sounds amazing. I mean, you've written the book, you are living your dream. There's more to come that you are dreaming about as well. So what inspired you to create this Live Your Dream Club, and how does it like reflect your journey as well?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. Yeah, so this is something that I plan to launch in 2025 January. And
Woohoo.
this is literally like my life's work. And there's so much that I've learned. And one thing that I've noticed again and is that people felt really alone and that they feel like if they're struggling with something that they're like the only one who must be feeling that way. It is absolutely not true because, like a lot of my clients uh, share similar struggles. And it was fascinating how so many people feel the same way or have similar challenges, but felt like they were the only one and felt, very alone. So I would love to build this community of dreamers, of people who connect with each other, to help each other. And then a lot of the, coaching that I've done with one-on-one clients, I'll be offering that in a group setting. So I'll be actually teaching, the love framework and like step by step, like what I actually do in one-on-one coaching in a group setting. There will also be live Q&A session, live group coaching session where people can come and ask any questions. I do think that there's some amazing learning that could happen when you see other people navigating their career journey and on their own journey to living their own dreams and figuring things out. I recently actually did a workshop in New York City, and maybe I can do one in Tokyo at some point.
Oh, I was just about to
And
say, I'm going to invite you to Tokyo to come and do one here. I think you would get
I would love
a
that.
lot
Mhm.
of people involved. I've taken lawyers on retreats and we've done group coaching together, and I do love it's very beautiful how you said seeing other people navigate what they're doing means to you, it can give you such insights as you're not alone, for one thing, and also how people tackle things can be really great and instrumental to help yourself. So,
Exactly.
how does group coaching work? Because in my case, it took a little bit of, I guess, setting the boundaries, the ground rules to opening up, and that what happened on in the group coaching didn't go out of there, that people promised not to talk about somebody else's problems or what they were navigating outside of the group, those sorts of things. Do you do that to help the group coaching aspect work? And you plan to do that for this group coaching to help people be able to put their hand up in the Q&A and be able to share what's going on to help others and then ultimately help themselves.
Yeah, totally. So, confidentiality will be an important promise for the group. So, for everyone who joins, they you will know and respect that whatever was shared, and especially in the group coaching sessions, will be private and then will not be shared outside. So that way people feel safe and feel like they can really share what is really going on. So I think that would be an important part of it. I've done several different cohort-based group coaching programs in the past, and I've noticed that people wanted continuous support. And I think what they also wanted was community. So that's why I am, rebranding and relaunching my group coaching as more of a continuous membership community as opposed to a fixed, start and end time. And we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited to see how this community can grow. I'm going to also invite other amazing speakers, like some of the people I interview on my podcast, as to have a master class to share about their journey or to teach a skill that I think could be helpful for people. So there's that. I would love to also build this thriving community. So most of it will be virtual. So I'm hoping that, a lot of people from different parts of the world will join. So that way it could be a really vibrant and interesting, diverse community. But I would love for there to be some in-person events as well. So I did one recently in New York City, and it was just also really great. Virtual's great, but sometimes in-person events, there's a lot of magical things happen. And actually, I just got this message from someone who attended the event, and she said, I really loved the workshop and excited about the Live Your Dream Club launching. And I feel like less alone, like having met so many people navigating their journey too. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted people to support each other. There's a lot of kind of naysayers around the world, who said, you can't do that and you're delusional. Who do you think you are, right? But like we said, I think a lot of people kind of project their own insecurities onto other people. If there's something you want to do, but you're surrounded by people who are not really supporting you, who say you can't do it, the chances of you making it is like really, really low. So I'm trying to create this community where like you'll never be judged for the things that you want to do. And then people will be cheering for you and believe in you, even
Grow
when
your
you don't believe in
cheerleaders.
yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely. This sounds like a club
that's
that's going to be full of cheerleaders and others,
yes.
being, as you say, people who find your people. They might be in your club. And how then do people sign up for this? If they're interested, is there a waiting list or somewhere they can go to find out more?
Exactly. So I just opened up the waitlist. Everything's on my website. So my name spells with the C, CELINALEE.co. So celinalee.co. That's my website where you can find information about Live Your Dream Club. So you can join the waitlist. I also have my podcast there. So yeah, I would love for people to
Ooh,
join, and there's a way for people to contact me. And I'm also active on LinkedIn. So if anybody has any questions, I would love for this community to just like grow and one day have, chapters in different cities around the world. And I would love for people to be connected to each other and help each other out. Like maybe someone in New York City helps someone in Tokyo, and someone in Tokyo helps someone in Paris. And, and then we can all be connected to each
absolutely.
other by helping and paying forward, because at the end of the day, we can't do it alone.
That's right. We need a team, don't we? And team supporting you is super important. There's another thing that you've just acquired. I mean, we had a long list there, but I did mention at the beginning when I introduced you, the advisory board that you're on. I think you've just been invited to join KSE advisory board. Tell me about that, because is this connecting you through to the startups and the entrepreneurs that you were talking about before, perhaps? And how on earth does a lawyer become also an advisory board member? And is it something that we should maybe as lawyers be looking at as another and to add on to our list of things that we do? Tell me about that.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting because years ago, when I wrote and published my book, I was still working as a lawyer. Sang, who's a founder of KC, had invited me to speak at, it was, I think, recently launched Mentor Series. So I was like the first guest. And he was building this community. And then he invited me to speak about my journey of writing my book. So that was like more than 10 years ago. And then
Amazing.
yeah, and then like the
Yeah.
whole time, then I went on to venture out into the coaching and podcasting, and then he kept growing the community. And then recently, we were talking, and he invited me to their podcast, and then he asked if I could join as a board member. So yeah, it's been a, kind of
Mm.
a full circle
Wow.
moment.
Yeah, look what happens from being invited to speak at something many years ago and how it comes full circle. It's so exciting. I think, is there opportunities then for other lawyers to be somehow finding these positions, or that if you get invited to do something, it could lead to other things? What would you say about that? Is it good to look for these or wait for them to come? What's a good approach for this? Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned is that when you plant the seeds and you don't know where the trees will grow, where the flowers will blossom. So in the beginning, like we can't really control everything, right? And we can't guarantee an outcome. But I think if every day you're out there, sharing your story, doing what lights you up, you stay connected to people, you help them if they invite you to something and then you give their time and energy and you show up, right? And then I've had so many instances, not just me being invited to join the board of KC, but so many times, like, I was in a situation where like years and years ago, we were all in like different jobs, right? And then I helped someone, I don't even know with what, right? And then many years later, they have all moved on to amazing things. And then they remembered me and then they invite me to maybe speak at their companies or ask me to coach, their friends or coach them. Or so like, it's interesting how when you show up authentically and then are you're a giver and you want to help people and then you do the things that you want to do and you're kind, I think amazing things happen.
Wow.
So this
Yeah.
was definitely not planned at all, but it's really aligned with my vision because basically startup founders are dreamers, right? They have this big vision and a dream of building their own company. So it's been, really meaningful for me to support their journey. So yeah, I'm
Perfect.
really looking forward to it.
I love it. Well, that leads me to this amazing question, which I hope you like. And it is really the most important thing, or perhaps it's things in your case. You're into multiple things, but the things that you've learned from your career in law at the very beginning and all the things that you've done so far, what would you say is what's coming up for you is the most important thing you've learned to share with everybody? Mm.
Yeah, I think at the core of what makes a successful and fulfilling life is the relationship that we build with ourselves. So, like how we talk to ourselves, how we see ourselves. So, this is something that I teach to all my clients. It's unfortunately something a lot of women, especially women of Asian backgrounds, have struggled even more because there's a lot of cultural obstacles, societal challenges that kind of make it a little bit more tough than other groups. So that is something that I am really trying to share with the people that I help. Another thing that I also really emphasize is that a lot of times I think that people don't think about creating a diverse life portfolio. So like, for example, like, if you're a very savvy, smart financial investors, to not put all of your money in one thing, right? Like if you have all of your investment in stock market and it crashes, guess what? You lost everything, right? But I think a lot of times we do that for our life. Like a lot of, especially for lawyers, I feel like all of our identities tie around our job and job titles and how much money we make or what firm we work at, right? But that is only one aspect of our life. Career is just one part of life. So think about what kind of life you want first. How do you want to spend your time? What is important to you? What are your values? What is meaningful to you? And then think about what kind of job will fit that, not the other way around. I think a lot of other people do it the other way around. They just try to get the job that pays the most and then try to fit life into it. Oftentimes doesn't work. And then to also make time for other things, pursue hobbies that you think is interesting, start a side project, maybe start a side business, volunteer somewhere, join a board, have different friend groups, that could support you through hard times. And then when one aspect of your life is not going well, like whether you maybe lose your job or you have a tough day or maybe you break up with your partner or something like that, you'll have other sources of support and joy that will help you through the hard times. I think that's how you build a resilient life portfolio.
Love it. Different sources of support,
Mm-hmm.
finding your people in different places, right? You flipped it though too with do all those things, the career, the life, spending time where you want to do that, the values, and then find the job that fits it. A kind of think
Right, exactly.
that's what you and I are doing right now. And I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you the question I get asked probably every week. People see me on social media, they'll see you the
Mhm,
same thing, and I
mhm.
get asked, how do you find the time to fit in all
Right.
the things that you are doing, Catherine? So,
Mhm.
Celina, how do you find the time? I know what my answer is, and I'll reveal it after you've
Ooh,
given
I want to hear
yours.
your answer too.
Well, I'll give it to you now, is that I make the time for the things that I want to do. And we
Right,
all
right.
make the time for the things that we want to do, actually. So I don't know, what's your answer? I don't want to influence you, but you tell me what you would say when people, obviously, I'm sure they ask you this question.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're 100% right. I actually interviewed this really famous and successful designer named Debbie Millman, and she said something similar to what you're saying. It's basically like, people always say like, "Oh, I want to do that, but I don't have time." But she says, if you really make time for the things that really are important to us. So if you say you don't have time, it's probably means it's not that important to you, right? So yes, for me, that's also been the case. And something that I also want people to know is that everything that I share on LinkedIn or, just through the podcast or my life journey, I didn't do it all at the same time. It took me long, long time to do some of the things, right? Sometimes I also like compare myself to other people who seem to be like doing super amazing things. But I know that like they also I have to remind myself that it also took time for them to build that thing. So I've done a lot of different things, but not all at the same time. I think RBG says something that was very wise. She said, you can absolutely do everything that you want in your life, but you'd be foolish to think that you can do it all at the same time. So obviously make time for the things that are important to me. I do try to focus on small actions because when I think about this like huge intimidating goal, like it would totally freak me out and I wouldn't even begin. But when I wrote the book, I said, what is one thing I can do today to take one action? So it could be sending one email, reaching out to one person, reading one article or whatever. And then I think over time, small actions, which don't have to take up a huge amount of time, can really accumulate into you having a huge transformation or achieving a big goal.
Love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that
No.
you wanted to mention that you'd probably thought about before coming on the show that you thought, I really want to say this? Is there anything we've missed out or you'd like to add or emphasize what you've already talked about?
This was so fun. And if I may, there's something that I hear all the time from my clients or people who are reaching out to me for support is that like they feel like they're so behind or like other people have it all made, they've made it. And who am I to do that? I feel like an imposter saying that I am XYZ, like whatever they want to become, right? And I want to remind people that everybody starts with the first step. Like nobody's born with an experience, right? And then it is not helpful for you to compare your first step with someone's 30 years of experience. So like I did this when I was starting my podcast, I'd be curious about your experience too, but like my first episode, it took me like hours to record a 5-minute episode. I felt like I sounded so unnatural and like, oh my God, like what is wrong with me? And then I would compare myself to these professional radio hosts or podcasters who's like they've been doing it for 20, 30 years, right? And like, how come I can't sound like that, right? But I found that it is really unfair for me to compare my first try with the work of the masters, right? If they had compared themselves to the masters of their time, that would have really discouraged them and they would not be where they are. So be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself, cheer for yourself as you're taking the first step because that takes a lot of courage. And another thing that I really want to remind people is that when people give advice to you, a lot of times they want to justify the decisions that they've made. I see this a lot, especially amongst my lawyer clients, especially if you're there like trying to explore other possibilities beyond law, right? And they say, but all these smart people that I respect said I can't do it, right? Who you talk to matters. Like if you're trying to leave law or maybe do something in addition to law that's not necessarily practicing law full time, if you only talk to lawyers, I think people do this subconsciously. They're not really like, trying to poo-poo your dream, but everybody wants to feel like they've made the right decision, right? So it's going to be very hard for them to be like, oh yeah, I admit I made a wrong decision by staying in law. I really want to be doing what you're doing. Chances are people are not going to say that. By telling other people, no, you should stay in law, it's safe. What if it doesn't work out? it is kind of like defending or justifying their own decision. And they'll do this even if they're not very happy in what their job, right? So know that other people's opinions or advice reflects their own desire to be right in their own decision. So it may or may not be relevant to you. And nobody has thought about your dreams more than yourself. Nobody cares about your life more than yourself, right? So you owe it to yourself not only to listen to other people, but to yourself too. And I hope you give yourself permission to just get started. And if there's a way I could be supportive of you, it'd be my honor, and I'd be so grateful.
Wow, nice. That was beautiful. And I think no one's a natural at anything. That's what I believe.
Mhm.
And, there's this paradox of effortlessness that you may have heard about, that people who make things look very effortless, actually, it's taken hundreds of hours of effort to get to that point. So this paradox of excellence, paradox of mastery, that's often called this effortlessness paradox. So I leave people with that because you may look like you're an expert from the beginning. Anyone who wants to see, just go back to season 1, episode 1 of this podcast, and you'll hear me as a very, very big amateur. And I'm still learning every day, and I'm sure you do too in your podcasting. But again, little steps, get better and better as you go. So, well, that's amazing. I've had a lovely conversation with you, but I do always finish with a lighter note with sort of some quick fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Sure. Yes. And before that,
Yeah.
I just want to mention I love what you said about the effortlessness. And I've actually learned that there's an Italian word called sprezzatura. Have you heard of it? I learned about it. It's a word that doesn't actually exist in English, but it's basically years of experience, like, figure skaters or pianists or musicians, right? They're so good at what they do after years and years and years of practice that they make a really difficult thing look so easy. And apparently it's called sprezzatura. It's an Italian word, and I love it so much.
I was reminded of that. I'll give you a recent story which happened even just very, very recently, as I met a Japanese Paralympian who went to Paris 2024, and he's an archer. So he does archery, and he had his equipment with him. And I've seen archers on the TV and thought, oh, that looks pretty easy. Pull back the string, let the arrow go. Oh, no. So I tried to do that with my fully able right arm, pull back the string, and I could pull it back perhaps 1.5 inches. Now, he's a Paralympian, and his right arm is fine, but his left arm isn't. So he pulls back the string, with his mouth.
Wow.
And he pulls it back about 1.5 feet.
Wow.
To the extension of the other arm. And so I was left absolutely dumbfounded, and thought, there I go, looking at something that looks effortless on TV, when I see an archer doing their skill, their mastery, and here I am, fully abled, fully bodied, and not able to do what he can do. And it's through his mastery that I was just super impressed at what he's done. And it made me sort of feel more grounded in that you've really got to not take things for granted, and also just look at that paradox of effortlessness showing up because of all the hours that he's done. And I went off to Paris, and he was talking about that with me as well. So that's another example, is what we might see delivered is actually a result of so many more hours and, strife and all the other things that go in the background before you see someone turning up. So if there's anything that we do after listening to you and me today, is just take a step back and think about all those people you see in front of you who look like they're delivering smooth, slick, and really well and professionally. And usually there's a lot of effort behind that. Tell me, what's your favorite saying or motto that you live by? I think we've heard a lot today, but is there one favorite saying that you often say?
Yes. I love Rumi's quote. It says, as you walk on the way appears. This really has been my life philosophy. I think a lot of the things that I did, I actually had no idea how to make it happen because I've never done it before, right? There was like no blueprint, but as you start walking, like the way will appear. But if you don't start walking, it will not appear.
Craft your path. Wow. If you were going to share a book or something that you've read recently, is there anything that you can recommend?
One of my favorite book is by Adam Grant. He's a Wharton professor. It's called Give and Take. I read this years and years ago, and it really is aligned with my vision and mission in life. And basically, the premise of the book is the givers succeed more than the takers on the long term.
Mm.
So there's like givers and matchers and takers. Obviously, givers give more than they take, takers take more than they give, and then matchers want to be equal, right? Apparently, if you give more, even though in the short term it seems like the takers succeed more because they take more, long term, you have built up a lot of goodwill. You've helped so many people, and then all of a sudden, when you want to do something, all the matchers will want to get up and want to help you and
Yeah.
spread goodwill. And
Well, Adam Grant is a favorite of the lawyers on air who've been on the podcast. I'm just thinking maybe
amazing.
I should invite him in 2025 to come on the show. Ah, there
Yes,
we go. There's a dream. Okay. And if Jane's listening to this, she will say that let's make that happen. So,
amazing.
what is something about you? You're very out there and we see you, but what's something about you that people perhaps don't know, Celina?
I am a night owl. So,
Ah.
people think that like people, because I've done so much, right? They think that I have a very like rigid schedule. I like wake up at like 6 a.m. and, or like 5 a.m. and kind of like a robot. I actually really enjoy like my freedom and I don't like being told what to do. So like my top value is freedom, right? But I also don't like it when I tell myself what to do, right? Like, so I have to give myself some room for flexibility for me to do the work. So I never like have a very rigid schedule every single day. And I am a night
Hmm.
owl, which is, kind of like the society makes us feel bad about it, but I'm the
What?
most creative at night and,
Yeah, who
I do a
knows?
lot of good work.
Good
So
on
that might be
you.
something that people don't know about me.
Yeah, there you go. Night owl rather than they
Mhm.
call them owls and fowls, right? The fowl that gets up
Yes,
very early in the morning. You're the one who's at the end of night. That's why this is perfect
exactly.
because you're at New York time in the evening and I'm a morning person. So I'm here rocking it in the morning as we speak. So last question is, if you were given an opportunity to spend a day with anyone, who would that be
Mhm.
and why?
I would love to meet my grandmother again,
Mm.
who passed away, when I was in college, and she was my mom's mom, and she helped to raise me when I was like a little girl. And she is really an inspiration because, back when she was growing up, it wasn't common for women to be educated. But she, went to high school, wanted to go to college, but because of the whole war, she actually fought in like the Japanese occupation era as in one of the independence movement and got expelled and never really fulfilled her dream of going to college. And she wanted to become a teacher, which a dream that she never, was able to achieve because of the historical unfortunate timing. And it's interesting because she lived through the worst time in Korean history. And whenever I think about, my own life and the things that sometimes it scares me, I think about if she was fortunate enough to be born in my time, like what would she have done with all of those opportunities and the freedom, right? So sometimes like I borrow courage from her and I'm doing it on behalf of her or maybe other women that came before me. And I remember when she was 80 years old, she started taking pottery lessons. And I was very young at the time. And a lot of people around her was like, oh my God, like grandma's learning what in 80? Why we should do that? I mean, 80 now is kind of, not that old, but back then it was considered very old. She was never afraid to pursue a dream or start a new venture. She started multiple businesses. She was a leader in her community. She helped so many people. And whenever there was something she wanted to do, she would just do it. So, like when she passed away when she was 90 years old, she left many of her work as the reminder that it's never too late to pursue your dream. And when I go to my parents' place in Korea, like we still have a lot of our work as a reminder. So sometimes I like to touch it. So and I feel I'm connected to her.
Mm.
So yeah, she's been an inspiration and I would love to meet her again and see her again and
Yeah.
have a conversation with her.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a super way to finish off today. And I just want to thank you so much for saying yes to coming on the show. Even though you're a podcaster and you're doing other things as well, you still gave up your time. And I really appreciate you doing that. It's been super to connect with you.
Thank you so much for creating this space for me to share my journey with you. It's been so, so fun, and I'll be in Tokyo soon. So I look forward to meeting
Yeah,
you in
I look
person
forward to
too.
seeing you. And I know that
Yes.
people can actually get on hold of you through your website or LinkedIn. It's easy to find you. I would be
Yes.
I would be shocked if no one could find you. So, but for anyone who has listened to this, and I'm sure you've got screeds of notes if you've been taking some notes, but please do subscribe to the Lawyer on Air podcast and leave us a review. We'd love hearing from you and all of the men and women who listen to this show, and it inspires them. So please do share it with somebody. If you know someone who's looking for coaching or needing that little boost today, please do share it with your friends and let them know about this episode. And that's all for today from me. See you on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.